Good morning, my dear friends. If I greet you, you answer. Good morning, my dear friends. That is better. I know a lot of you are wondering, who is this Negro? This black priest, where is he coming from? I'm a student in Rome. I just came over for a research program, and I was invited to celebrate the Mass with you. And I'm happy for the priest here to have given me the opportunity to celebrate this Mass. When I first arrived here in Singapore in the month of July for my research work, the first place I went to visit, I decided to go to the mental home, the mental institute where they keep mad people. It's very strange, huh? I didn't go to the casino. I chose to go to the mental home. And when I arrived, I went with a group of young students from Holy Spirit Church. They were there to distribute food to the madmen and to entertain them and all that. So as they were doing all this, giving out bread, giving out cake, making fun and to entertain, as a visitor, I don't know anyone. So I just leaned against a pillar. I just stood there and I was watching whatever was going on. So one of the madmen walked over to me. The man came. At first I was a bit afraid, Then when the man came near me, he said, "My friend, how are you? I know you. I know you are Barack Obama." I look at him, "You are from America, you are Barack Obama, I know you." I smiled, I told him, "Yeah, my friend, I'm not Barack Obama. I am Lee Kuan Yew." And the man said, "You are not Lee Kuan Yew. Lee Kuan Yew is Chinese. You look like Indian." I told him, "No, okay, I'm just a visitor." And he smiled, we chatted, and he said, "Thank you." And he didn't even collect the food or the cake they were sharing. He was so happy. And the man just walked away. So I was reflecting on this. I said, probably because I personally, recognized his presence, I responded to his smile. He smiled and I smiled back. I appreciated the fact that he came very close to me. I was not afraid. I was ready to open up and to talk to him, and maybe to share the joke, or even to share his madness, to truly identify with him. And the man was so happy, and he walked away. And that is what we call the spirit of sensitivity, where as Christians, we are called upon to avoid being indifferent to the plight of other people. And that is what we do today. Sometimes we are completely insensitive and indifferent to the feelings, the difficulties, and the plight of people that surround us. That is why if you look at the first reading, during the time of Prophet Amos, the kingdom of Israel had already been divided. There was the northern kingdom and there was the southern kingdom. And the northern kingdom was so rich. In fact, if you read the history, we were told that the king had built a magnificent palace. There was a swimming pool. They were feasting and eating every day. Of course, there were no casinos at that time. But they virtually had everything. But they neglected the poor, those who never had anything. They were indifferent to this type of people. And that was why God called Prophet Amos from the southern kingdom to go to the northern kingdom and to talk to these people. Don't be insensitive. Do not only think about yourself and forget about other people. Truly, there are people around you who are going through difficulties. Do you pay attention to get to know those people? If you come to Africa today, there are lots of Chinese businessmen from mainland China that have gone into Africa. They are into oil exploration, they are into exploration of gold, and most of them have become so rich. In my country, in Africa, we used to have this joke about this rich Chinese man, very rich businessman who deals in oil. He came into the church. He knelt down before the altar. He was looking for a contract of about $80 million. So he knelt down and prayed to God to twist the hands of these government officials to sign this contract for him. He desperately needed this contract to keep his company going. So he knelt down in front of the altar. He was praying passionately. And as he was praying for $80 million contract, a poor, wretched African man walked into the church and knelt down beside him. And he was praying for food. He said, God, I have not eaten for 1 week. Please, I need food for myself and for my family. The Chinese man had him. Your problem is food just for today. Take this $100 and get out. Allow God to concentrate on my $80 million. You know, every other problem, let God concentrate on my own. Your own doesn't matter. Just get out there and go. We are so insensitive, even to the problems and the plight of others. And that is why when you look at the story in the gospel of Lazarus and the rich man, first of all, I want us to examine the character Lazarus. Lazarus was not only poor, he was hungry and sick. Poverty, sickness, and hunger combined in one person. This is disaster. It's absolute disaster. You know, one person was carrying hunger, poverty, and sickness in him. And not only that, Lazarus had nowhere to stay. He had no house. He had to be lying at the gate of this rich man, looking for what to eat. Even the dogs came and licked him up. In other words, he was almost getting rotten, waiting to be eaten by the vultures. Dogs were coming to lick this man up. And not only that, just imagine, as he was lying there at the gate of this rich man, every day the gate will swing open and expensive cars would drive in and drive out. And what will Lazarus do? All he will take is to sniff the dust that comes, from the car. These rich cars, call them, is it Mercedes or what, Vios, all these rich cars you have here. They'll drive in, drive out. Lazarus was there at the gate. Unnoticed, a man without dignity, a man without identity. He was reduced to the foot of dogs. What of the rich man? Probably it is not the responsibility of the rich man that Lazarus was poor. The rich man worked so hard in order to be rich. He sweated mentally and physically. He was even so generous, he allowed Lazarus to occupy his own gate. He allowed Lazarus to stay at that gate. But not only that, we were told the rich man ate magnificently every day. He didn't need to say any prayer, give us this day our daily bread. He didn't need that prayer because he already had daily bread. And during the time of Jesus, we were told that he wore purple. Purple was the color for the rich. It's not every man that can afford to buy a colorful cloth at that time. So if you wear the color purple, in other words, you have become a cream of the society. You have already made it. So this man was feasting magnificently every day. He was wearing purple. He had clothes. He had food. He had privileges. He had friends in the corridors of power.